Hello everybody, my name is Priscilla. Today I'm going to be sharing with you my testimony, which is just insane because I've had it so heavy on me to do this video for a really long time now, and I just constantly kept putting it off. I've made every excuse in the book, but it just kept gnawing at me, and I know it's God wanting me to do this. It's just, it hasn't been easy because I know that this is probably, well, I know for a fact that this is going to be my most vulnerable, exposed video that I've ever made in my life. So if you can please bear with me and forgive me if I'm not the best speaker, so every time I've had it in my head, tell your story, I'm always just like, no way, like, why would I do that? I am not a good talker, I'm not good at explaining things, and it's actually funny because I've always thought about doing YouTube in general, but it was constantly in my mind, tell your testimony, and I always was like, no, I should just do this and this and this and this, because we always know better than God does, right? So I actually did make a YouTube channel. Obviously it wasn't, talking about God or sharing my testimony or anything, but I slowly started feeling that feeling again. And what's insane is that I kept getting recommendations for testimony videos. So mind you, I wasn't even watching these videos whatsoever, but I'd be scrolling and it would be like a video of somebody saying, this is my testimony story, or titled my testimony, and I would just ignore it, and I'm just like, ignoring it, even though I felt strongly that the Lord was pressing me to do this. So recently I had slowly stopped doing videos, and I just told God, I was like, God, if you really want me to do this, like, slap me in the face with it, like, give me a clear light, even though I kind of already knew the answer. But I guess I just wanted like super confirmation, because this is kind of terrifying to do. So it's insane. Usually I have pretty vivid dreams that I remember, and sometimes I just try to shake it off or whatever. But the other night I had a dream that I could not shake off. I have not been able to shake off. And I'll spare you really all the details, but it was just one part of my dream that was that slap in the face that I was asking for. I was above a building, and when I was looking below the building, when I was looking below, I was, I guess, floating, and in huge letters, it was like pink around it, and in huge letters it said, God is still patiently waiting for you. God is still patiently waiting for you. I even wrote it down because, all the dreams I've ever had in my life, I've never, ever seen words in my dream. Clear words. It was a clear sentence that I seen. And I remember waking up and I kept saying it in my head. And I was just like, boom. I was like, well, there's that slap in the face. Because there's no coincidence. Like, there's no, you guys, like, it was, and it's insane because it makes me feel so overwhelmed, like, even as I'm talking about it. Because God is still patiently waiting for you. And I'm like, still patiently waiting for me. But for what? Oh, to do what I've been feeling wholeheartedly like he's been wanting me to do. So that was just one, that for me in itself was like, okay, Lord, I'm terrified, but I'm going to do it, and it was a devotion we had, and it was talking about, I was watching Kent Hovind, and it was a few days ago, and he just randomly said something about how, God talks to us, in different ways. It can be through this or through that or through dreams, and like just that again. And I just kept reading things about, your dreams and God, and it was just like, oh my gosh. More testimony videos I'm still seeing on YouTube. Still. And I'm like, okay, God. So here I am. I'm sorry if that was lengthy. You guys, like, it's insane. I haven't told anybody about this. I think I said I'm terrified, because I am. I'm sure I'm going to get judged, which is fine because, I've come to realize it doesn't matter what you do in life. You can be baking cookies and minding your own business and doing the right thing, and somebody's still going to be like, did you see how she was making her cookies? You know what I'm saying? Like, I just have to shake it off and just tell myself, like, I'm doing this because I know that I'm supposed to. I know I'm supposed to. So, with that being said, I am going to share everything. I might make it 2 parts to this, if anybody even does watch this video, because I feel like it'll be too long to express in one video, because I was going to just, give like the ABCs of it or whatever, but I just kept having that feeling like, no, tell them everything. And I'm like, everything? Like, everything. And I just kept feeling like, yes, I'm supposed to tell them everything. So, I'm going to start from when I was little to, my present day. But like I said, I'm probably going to make it 2 parts to this because it's just going to be too long. Again, I don't even know if anybody's going to watch this. That's okay too. But even if it's just one person who can relate to me, like, that would make me feel a little bit better about throwing everything out there, because there's probably maybe a couple of people who actually know everything, and now I'm throwing it all out there. So We'll start with when I was younger. There was a point, where I lived with my mom and my stepdad and my siblings. I would see my dad on the weekends, and we went to church, but I remember my mom would have like this van come pick us up, and it was always full of kids, and there was this lady who was at the church. She would come pick us up on Sundays, and we would go to church. But my mom never went with us to church. It was always just me and my younger siblings. So most of the time I would wake up and I would get us all ready for church, so we can go and stuff. I remember being younger and actually really liking it because I felt good about being there. I used to like the songs, stuff like that. But my mom never actually talked to us about God. She never did. So looking back now, I can see that I believe that she just had us go there so that she could have her own time, I guess, because a lot of those times on those weekends, they would have parties and stuff like that. So there would be like people knocked out on the floor, hungover from the next day, whatever. But my dad, when I would visit him on the weekends, we used to pray together. Well, he would pray with me and I would follow because, I was younger and everything. I remember him talking to me about God, quite a few times. I have memories of him speaking to me about God and Jesus and all that stuff. So, anyways, rewind a little bit. My dad was trying to get custody of me. Mind you, I've experienced throughout my whole life, I've experienced, all kinds of abuse, verbal, physical, sexual, emotional. So with that being said, my dad tried to get, custody of me because I had told him things that were going on and stuff like that. And, I guess he didn't win the custody battle or whatever. So my mom and my stepdad at the time, obviously I continued living with them. And I remember not too long after that, I had told my mom what my stepdad was doing to me, like abusive wise. And I remember she told me, she was like, oh, show me with this doll, like what he did to you, because at that time, my arm, he did, pop my shoulder joint out of place or whatever. And I remember thinking like, oh, she's gonna leave him now, like finally, because I didn't like him. I was really like just terrified of him. And I remember she like just continued to be with him. And I remember feeling so like unsafe, especially like with my mom, because I felt like she didn't care or love me enough to like even like confront it. So that always had messed with me as a kid. But I say all this stuff, like my stepdad abused, or my ex-stepdad, or whatever you want to call it, my siblings' dad, I don't hold any ill will to him. I have forgiven him in my heart. He has never downright like apologized to me, but I have forgiven him in my heart, and I'm just thankful that my siblings didn't go through that, you know. I think it was because, like, I wasn't his kid kind of thing. But I just wanted to make that clear. Like, I don't hold any grudges towards him or, you know, anything like that. But anyways, so where was I? Oh yeah, so my mom, so I didn't feel safe with her, whatever. So I would always look forward to going to my dad's on the weekends, and I felt safer with him. And there was a point when we're gonna just fast forward a little bit. I'm sorry, like I said before, I'm not the best at speaking. But there was a point where I lived with, you know, random people, like the neighbors and stuff like that. And I remember specifically when I was 11, I had just turned 11 or something, and my mom said, she dropped me off at my aunt and uncle's house with my siblings, and she said that, oh, I'm gonna only be gone for a couple weeks, like 2 weeks, and I'll be back to get you guys. Okay, whatever. So, you know, 2 weeks went by, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, months went by, and I remember just being confused and wondering, like, where is she? Like, did she just leave us here? Okay. And there was just a point where I realized that she wasn't coming back. I think I realized that when my siblings got taken away. They got taken away from me. They went to live with their grandmother and their father at the time. So it was just me now at the house with my aunt and uncle and my 2 cousins. And they ended up getting custody of me. So I ended up living there up until I was 18 years old. And in that time, you know, I'm grateful that I didn't have to go through the foster care and stuff like that. But, you know, at the same time, things weren't perfect, of course. My aunt and uncle were very strict people. My aunt has now passed on, you know, God rest her soul. But they were strict with us, and I remember I was close with my cousin Melissa. We were like sisters. Well, to this day, we're like sisters. I consider her to be my sister. And I think it was about a year. So when I was like 12, when I was like living there for like a year, 12 or 13, it was the last time I seen or spoke to my dad. I remember he came to visit me. We spoke, you know, whatever. And he wanted me to go live with him in Chicago. And I backed out, which is interesting because there was one point in my life where I wholeheartedly wanted to live with my dad. You know, like, I would have wanted that so much. But like when it actually came down to it, when I was living where I was living now, something in me, I just didn't want to, and I just said no, you know. And that was the last time I heard from my dad. So years went by, and I remember I was confused again, and I was like, where is he? Like, what happened? I was confused. I didn't understand. I felt like it was my mom, you know, leaving all over again, but I was just shocked because this time it was my dad, and, you know, I was always over the moon about my dad. But so as a teenager, I just 100% rejected God. I was so angry. So angry. because I thought to myself, where is this God that my dad used to talk to me about? Like, he's not here. Like, he's not real. And I just was so angry. And I remember just darkness. All I just felt was just darkness. And I mean, my side of the closet was just like black and gray. Like, I was very, I wouldn't say super goth or punk, but like kind of in that mixture of things. I would listen to like heavy, you know, metal music, sad music, stuff like that. And, you know, I started stealing, I started, you know, smoking. I would even steal those little wine bottles, you know, from the store. And there was a point in my life where I started to, you know, cut myself. And, you know, at the time, it just felt to me, I know it's going to sound crazy, but it almost felt like a comfort to me, because I was just hurting, and anytime I would hurt or be angry, I would cut myself. And for some reason I felt relief, temporarily, obviously, but I felt some sort of relief, some sort of control over, you know, doing that to myself. And, you know, obviously I was going to school at the time, so I'd always cover myself. Like, I'd have a long sleeve and I'd cover it, and I always like cut a hole so that I could put my thumb through, so like nobody could see my arm and stuff like that. So yeah, I really, if people talked about God or anything like that, I was just like, you know, my aunt and uncle, I know they believed in God, but they never spoke about it. Like, we never like prayed as a family. We never went to church. It wasn't spoken about. I just remember there being a huge Virgin Mary statue in our living room. But that was about it. And so here I am. I'm 18 now. And I hear from my dad. And don't forget, like, I hadn't talked to him since I was like 12 or 13 years old. So when I spoke with him, I was just like in complete shock. I was emotional. I was so many different emotions. And around that same time, I ended up getting kicked out of my aunt and uncle's house because, you know, I snuck out. Like I said, they were strict, so I would sneak out. So one night I snuck out. It was probably like a few weeks after my birthday. I snuck out, and I was getting a call the next morning, like, you're going to have to come pack your stuff. You're going to have to leave, you know, stuff like that. And I'm not trying to badmouth anyone or anything. I'm just being honest, you know, telling the raw parts, all the parts, you know. So I ended up going. I got my stuff. I was staying with somebody I was with at the time. And boy, did things go more downhill, I guess, especially mentally and everything else. That's when I like super started smoking, especially like weed and stuff like that. I was drinking, always partying, and you know, being very promiscuous, like very promiscuous. And I remember, like, I would just smoke weed and I'm like, oh, it's just weed, like, it's not like I can become addicted or anything. But yet I would smoke from the time I woke up till the time I went to bed. So it was like all day. I was always high. And I remember I had quit smoking, and, you know, I was still smoking like tobacco and stuff. And I started heavily drinking. So I stopped smoking marijuana and I started drinking. Like, I'll just have a glass of wine a night. Glasses of wine. I would black out. I was a very sloppy drunk. I didn't drink to put the edge off. I drank to, you know, get plastered, get wasted, faded, you know, whatever. And I just remember that I still, like, it's insane because when I think about it now, all the people who tried talking to me about God back then, it's almost like I would burn on the inside because I would be so angry. I would be so angry, like, why are you talking to me about this God who let me down my whole life? What kind of God does that? He doesn't care about me. He doesn't love me. Why are you talking to him about me? Like, I would get so upset about it, which is insane to think about, you know, now. But I think it's because I had so much darkness, so much anger inside of me that the light, it almost burnt me instead of helping me, you know? So yeah, that happened. I was just always in depression. My anxiety was through the roof. I always said, oh, you know, I just smoke, I just drink. Like, I'll never do drugs. Even though technically I was, you know. I'll never do drugs. And then I started dabbling a little. Oh, you have anxiety? Here, take this Xanax. I didn't even know what Xanax was, honestly. So I was like, oh, all right, whatever. Took it some more, started taking it more and more and more. Obviously, I'd black out. And there was just one point where I woke up somewhere that I literally had no idea how I got there, who I was with. I was like, where did my friends go? Why did they just leave me here? You know, people thought I was missing. It was just insane, scary, terrifying. I told myself, wow, I'm never going to drink again. Like, I'm never going to go through that again. Well, that didn't last. A few weeks later, I was drinking again. And in between then, you know, I had some relationships, but I'm not even going to really get into those stories. But there was a point when not even a point, I should have talked about this when I was a teenager. When I was a teenager, I found porn. I discovered porn, whatever, however you want to call it. And, you know, I used to, like, masturbate, whatever. But as I grew older, it was amplified. Like, I would always watch it. And I'm not even exaggerating when I say, like, when I was older, like, I was watching it sometimes 2 handfuls of times a day. This is also when I was being very promiscuous, you know, cheating on the person I was with at the time, you know, multiple times. And it just, for some reason, it's weird because I almost felt like some kind of importance, like I was important, but briefly. I don't even know how to explain it. Some kind of power that I never had before, because I was always very self-conscious about myself, my body, from head to toe. I was always self-conscious about everything. So when I started like realizing guys were taking an interest in me and stuff, you know, I just completely ran with that one. And there was a point where obviously, you know, my first engagement, we were engaged, it was broken off. I was seeing someone else, and after that, I'm going to do this real quick. I moved to Colorado, broke up, ended up coming back to Florida. When I came back to Florida, I started, you know, like I said, I was very promiscuous, and I started thinking like, wow, well, you know, I could get paid for doing this. You know, people get paid for doing this, and it's the only thing I'm good at, because that's what I used to think. So why not just do some videos? You know, I guess what you would call porn, obviously. So I did that for a while, and I started realizing how good the money was, and I was just like, wow, I can have the biggest house, the best car, you know, I won't have to ask anyone for anything, because I used to hate asking for help, asking, you know, for anything. And in that time, I ended up meeting somebody that I kind of fell for, and I told them about it. Long story short, I ended up leaving that relationship too. In case you haven't noticed a pattern here, I just always gone. Even I've, you know, always had good men, and I just go, just leave. So after that, I was feeling really lost. And it's weird because in that relationship, I had an experience where I was feeling like I needed to pray, was feeling like I needed God in my life. It's hard to explain. It's just something that I randomly started feeling. So when I was single, at one point I was staying with my cousin, and everybody thought that I told everybody, I should say, that I was working at a club, that I was a shot girl at a club. So, you know, if it was weird that I was out all night and come back, you know, early, whatever. I stayed there briefly, only to move in with my aunt. I was staying in a room there, and my heart's beating like so fast because I just can't believe I'm even saying all this right now. But so like I said, I was doing videos at one point, and I thought to myself, well, I felt kind of stuck, like I'm gonna have to help, you know, pay some bills, and I don't want them to think I'm just not doing anything, you know. So should I start doing videos again, and this, that, the other thing? And then I was looking at, I forget what the site was called, Backpage or something like that. And they were looking for girls. So, I mean, the best way I can put it is that I was kind of doing it again, except this time I wasn't doing videos, even though that was still terrible, you know. So I met with this guy, I messaged him and stuff like that, and it was the same concept. You're getting paid to have sex, you know. Except there's no videos involved, so I'm sure you all can put two and two together what I was doing. So I remember the first time, you know, I did what I did, whatever, and the guy was waiting for me outside, and I went in the car, and I was just feeling just worthless, honestly. And I remember him telling me, you know, to give him the money. And I was confused. I didn't know how that all worked. And he was like, well, yeah, you know, I get the cut, I get the money, and then after so long, you know, you'll start getting a certain percentage or whatever. And, you know, I just remember thinking to myself, like, I already felt like crap, you know? And I'm like, am I gonna really keep doing this? I ended up doing it a few more times, and you know, after every time I was just feeling worse and worse. And before this, before I started doing this, I wasn't really drinking as much or anything. And when I started doing this again, I started drinking again, and, you know, doing coke, drugs, you know, Molly, ecstasy, whatever, all of it. And there was just a point where I just completely broke down one night. Because around this time, like I said, is when I was feeling like I was supposed to be connecting with God in some form or another, you know? And I just broke down. And I remember calling my dad because, you know, we were talking at this time. And I was hysterical, and I told him that I just wanted to die. I didn't want to be here anymore. And I remember him telling me, he's like, you need to pray. Please pray for me. And I just was like, really? Like, I'm calling you and I'm pouring myself out to you, and you want me to pray? And I remember I was just so upset, and I got off the phone with him, and I didn't even know how this happened, whatever. But I remember I fell to my knees, and I was just bawling. I didn't even know how to pray, what to say, what to do. And out of nowhere, everything just starts coming out, like all these words, all my emotions start coming out. And to be honest, I don't remember much that I said. But all I remember is that this like huge wave just like overcame me. And I felt something. I felt something that I don't even think I ever felt before. And something in me that day, something just clicked. Something, I told myself, I felt so guilty. I felt so like I don't know how to explain it. I felt like, wow, God, I'm so sorry, like, which is weird because, you know, like I said, I was so angry with God. I didn't want to hear about him, talk about him. He wasn't existing in my world. But when I experienced that, it just, something in me that day changed. And it wasn't like boom, automatic change, you know. But something definitely switched inside of me. And, you know, obviously the only explanation is it was the Holy Spirit that came upon me. Something I never even thought that I was worthy of, you know. Because I just felt like I'm such a terrible person. Like, I felt like God would never forgive me. Like, I am scum. Like, I did so much bad, you know. And it just, I'm sorry, like, I've really been trying my best to keep my emotions together, so please just bear with me. But yeah, something in me changed that day. But it wasn't all right away, you know. It's already been so long, and, you know, so maybe I will make another part to this to explain where my life my second part of my testimony, I guess. So, I mean, the fact that you guys have even watched this long is frightening. But I hope that I wasn't wrong. I hope that me putting myself out here can do something for somebody who feels like there's no way God can love me, there's no way God could forgive me. Because I felt like that. I wished that I could have had somebody who went through the same thing as me tell their story, you know. But you're definitely not alone, and God does love you, and He will forgive you. You know, if He forgave me, I mean, I've only shared just a small portion with you guys, and if He can love and accept and forgive somebody like me, I feel like it can happen to anybody. When you repent and you turn away from because I'm by no means perfect. I still mess up every day, all the time. But now I know that God is on my side, and it's so much easier to go through life now. This video is way longer than I intended it to be, and I'm so sorry. But if you did watch up until now, I appreciate it. If you know somebody who maybe has a similar experience, maybe you can share it with them. Let me know if I should make a second part to it. So, hope you guys can join me on this journey. I don't know what it's going to be exactly, but yeah. Thanks for listening. And God loves you, and I hope you have a beautiful day. Bye, guys.